guys, this is another project for older grades. This is kind of like a math type project. It involves, much like the 1-point perspective, parallel lines and perpendicular lines. So we're going to take a look at another artist. His name was Piet Mondrian, and he was very well known for his it's called neoplasticity. It's a type of art movement. And I would suggest looking up a video about him. And this is going to be in the packet. So I'm going to put a link with a video that you can look up that's got really good information about Piet Mondrian. He started out as a very classical type artist, actually. He went to art school in France, and he painted things the way they looked in nature. But then you'll find out in the video that he decided to change his idea because of the abstract movement that was going on at the time. So he decided to kind of create his own piece of that abstract movement, and he called it, well, I don't know if he called it that, but it was eventually called neoplasticity. And it's just involving straight lines, squares, rectangles, and perpendicular and parallel lines. So what you're going to need is a pencil, just to start off with, and then you're going to need crayons or colored pencils. And the only colors that you're actually going to use are black, red, yellow, and blue. Where's my blue? I just got these. But you can use crayons. So I'm going to use those later. What you're going to do first is you're going to just draw some squares and rectangles. And I'm going to also use a ruler or a straight edge. So as we've talked about in previous videos, that straight edge doesn't necessarily have to be a ruler. It can be a book or anything that has a straight edge on it. So what I'm going to start with is maybe just a line. You can put this line anywhere. But what you're thinking about when you're drawing these squares and these rectangles is balance and variety. So if you think about it, right now I just have two really big rectangles. So I want to think about the sizes of my rectangles and squares, and also I want to make sure they're balancing the paper. So right now this square is bigger, so it's considered kind of bottom heavy. So it's really heavy here because this is the bigger shape, and it's really light up here. So what I'm going to do to break up that space and make it more balanced is I'm going to draw another line. It doesn't necessarily have to be across the whole page, but I'm going to draw another line, and any line that I'm drawing vertically is going to be perpendicular to the lines that are horizontal. So I'm going to make sure that it is going the exact same direction as the edge of my paper. That's kind of one of my tricks in making this look right, is I make sure that it's the vertical lines are parallel with the edge of the right and left edges of the paper, and I'm going to make sure that the horizontal line is parallel with the top and bottom of the paper. So in math, you've learned about parallel. So actually, let me just draw a parallel line and show you what I mean. So here's another parallel line, and it's parallel with this line. So if I were to give you the definition of parallel, I'll look that up real quick. Bear with me. Parallel definition of lines, planes, surfaces, or objects side by side having the same distance continuously between them. So this distance never changes. It's always the same distance. Another way of looking at it is these lines, if they were to keep going, they would go on to infinity and never touch. So that's parallel. And then perpendicular is kind of the opposite of that. they always touch, and they always touch at a 90-degree angle. So if you think about a perfect square, one of the corners of that square is 90 degrees. So these are parallel. This is perpendicular. Okay, so just gonna go all the way down here. This corner always has to be 90 degrees right here. Let me give you an example of what not to do. Not 90 degrees, right? This is more than 90 degrees. This is less than 90 degrees. We want to make sure all of our corners are 90 degrees, and that will create perpendicular lines. And then parallel lines never touch, like we just talked about. So I'm not going to use that line. But once again, let's get back to the art project. So we talked about the math piece. This is just the art project now. So we're thinking about balance. We're making sure that we're using variety of shapes as far as like squares and rectangles, and a variety of sizes. So all I have right now are these really big shapes. I want to make sure that I have small as well as big, and I want to make sure that I have more than one square. I've only got one square right here. The rest are rectangles, right? So I want to make sure that I have variety of rectangles and squares and sizes, so small and large. And I want to have balance. So right now you can see like this side is going to be a little heavier than this side because these are smaller, right? So I'm going to think about a way that I could either break up these shapes break up these shapes to make it lighter so that it balances, or draw more shapes on this side. So I'm going to draw some more shapes over here. And I still think that's probably still too light on this side. This is too heavy on this side. So I'm going to try and balance it by breaking up this side a little bit more. I'm going to put that, oops, that right there. One thing I'm not doing though is I'm not making smaller shapes. Fix that. So what I need to do is have a variety of sizes as well, like we talked about. So I'm going to make maybe a small square over here. Okay, and you know what, I can't erase that. I don't know what was going on with my eraser, so I'm just going to make that line go all the way up to make it look like it meant to do that. See that? So right now these are all very similar. I want to break maybe one of those up. So I'm going to maybe put that there. Maybe even break this up a little bit even more to smaller shapes. With the packet, this is, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this is also going to be in the packet. There's going to be a link to some of Mondrian's work that you can see and take a look at and maybe get some inspiration from. So I'll make sure that's available to you when you're working on this. I'm going to draw another square that's maybe this size over here to balance it out. Starting to look a little more balanced, but I don't think there's enough variety, so I'm going to make sure that I have that too. So variety and balance is the idea behind this project. And you'll notice that I'm also going to have variety in colors when I get to color. It's like an inch right there. Okay, I feel like I need to break this up, or maybe break this up. So I'm going to do that. Right there. Starting to look a little more balanced. Okay, let's say I want to leave it there. The next step that I'd go with is I take my either black crayon or black colored pencil, and I'm going to go over these lines again, because his lines, Piet Mondrian's lines, were very bold and very dark. So I'm going to bold those out. You could also do this with a Sharpie if you have one at home. I'm just going to go with what I have here. And then Piet Mondrian simplified his work into the primary colors. So red, blue, and yellow. So those are the only colors we're going to be coloring these squares with. After I draw these lines, maybe I'll just draw my verticals first. Way across. And here. Okay, so you can leave some squares white, which Piet Mondrian did, and you're going to need to color some of them as well. So I've got primary colors and black. You can also color them black. And if we think about these colors in terms of weight, if you think about it, white would be the lightest color, then maybe yellow. Black would be the heaviest color, right? So if you color a square black, that is going to be a lot heavier than, say, a red or a blue or a yellow. So if I were to color this one, let's say this one's black. I'm also, remember, thinking about balance. So this black, since it's the heaviest color, is kind of tipping the scale a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I've balanced it out over here too. So maybe I want to color one of these squares red. I'm not going to mix colors. I'm just going to use red, yellow, blue, and then the black and white. So it's probably, if you're thinking about weight, we've got white, then yellow. I think red would probably be next. It would be lighter than blue because blue's kind of dark. Then blue, then black. So you're thinking about these weights and how to balance, how to color your page using a variety, and you're using all the colors. You're not just using these three. You're using this as well as leaving some of them white. And that's the project. So have fun and share your work with me. I would love to see it. See you guys. Thank you.